Hola, ¿qué tal? Para Emblemas de México, el poder de la imagen en la nueva era de la información. Hace unos días, algunos medios de comunicación de los Estados Unidos publicaron que el Rand Paul reprendió al secretario de Salud y Servicios Humanos, Xavier Becerra, por los mandatos de vacunas ordenados por la administración Biden en la audiencia del Comité de Salud, Educación, Trabajo y Pensiones del Senado. Paul atacó a Becerra por dos cuestiones cruciales. Primero, criticó la descripción de Becerra de aquellos que abogan por la inmunidad natural como terraplanistas. En segundo lugar, desafió enfáticamente a Becerra sobre la idea de inmunidad natural contra el COVID-19 para las personas que ya lo contrajeron. Así lo informó el medio Washington Examiner el día 1 de octubre de 2021.
An Israeli study that had 2.5 million patients and found that the vaccinated group was actually 7 times more likely to get infected with COVID than the people who had gotten COVID naturally.
Senator, I'd have to get back to you on that one. I'm not familiar with that study.
Well, you think you might want to be if you're going to travel the country insulting the millions of Americans, including NBA star Jonathan Isaac, who have had COVID, recovered, look at a study with 2.5 million people and say, well, you know what? It looks like my immunity is as good as a vaccine or not. And in a free country, maybe I ought to be able to make that decision. Instead, you've chosen to travel the country calling people like Jonathan Isaac and others, myself included, flat earthers. We find that very insulting, goes against the science. Are you a doctor or a medical doctor?
I've worked over 30 years on health policy.
You're not a medical doctor. Do you have a science degree? And yet you travel the country calling people flat earthers who have had COVID, looked at studies of millions of people, and made their own personal decision that their immunity they naturally acquired is sufficient. But you presume somehow to tell over 100 million Americans who have survived COVID that we have no right to determine our own medical care. You alone are on high, and you've made these decisions, a lawyer with no scientific background, no medical degree. This is an arrogance coupled with an authoritarianism that is unseemly and un-American. You, sir, are the one ignoring the science. The vast preponderance of scientific studies, dozens and dozens, show robust, long-lasting immunity after COVID infection.
Por otro lado, el medio Yahoo News, en su edición del día 1 de octubre de 2021, apuntala en su nota titulada Rand Paul le dice al secretario de Salud y Servicios Humanos, Xavier Becerra, que está ignorando la ciencia y le pregunta si tiene un título en ciencias, en cuya nota menciona que el senador Paul cuestionó a Becerra diciéndole, si vas a viajar por el país insultando a millones de estadounidenses, incluido el astro de la NBA, Jonathan Isaac, que sufrió COVID, quien se recuperó. Esto es una arrogancia junto con un autoritarismo que es indecoroso y antiestadounidense, dijo Paul. Usted, señor, está ignorando la ciencia.
But you ignore history and science to shame the flat earthers, as you call them. You should be ashamed of yourself and apologize to the American people for being dishonest about naturally acquired immunity. You want more people to choose vaccination? So do I. You want to lessen vaccine hesitancy? So do I. You want to have that happen? Quit lying to people about naturally acquired immunity. Quit lording it over people, acting as if these people are deplorable and unwashed. Try persuasion instead of government cudgels. Try humility instead of arrogance. Try freedom instead of coercion. But most of all, try understanding that there's no more basic medical right than deciding what we inject into our bodies. Today, after hearing that millions of people in a study show without a doubt that there's a great deal of immunity from getting it naturally, do you want to apologize to the 100 million Americans who suffered through COVID, survived, have immunity, and yet you want to hold them down and vaccinate them? Do you want to apologize for calling those people flat earthers?
Senator, I appreciate your question and appreciate that everyone has their opinion. We follow the facts and the science at HHS. We use the expertise of the medical professionals, the scientists at HHS to make decisions. It's a team effort, and we rely on what is on the ground showing us results.
Except for the dozens and dozens of studies. In fact, Most, if not all, of the studies show robust immunity from getting the disease naturally. The CDC says if you've had measles and have immunity, you don't have to be vaccinated. The same was true of smallpox. You're selectively doing this because you want us to submit to your will. You have no scientific background, no scientific degrees, and yet you aren't really concerned about 100 million Americans who had the disease. You just want to tell us, do as you're told. That's what you're telling us. You want to mandate this on all of us. You're going to tell us if I have 100 employees, you're going to put me out of business with a $700,000 fine if I don't obey what you think is a science. Don't you understand that it's presumptuous for you to be in charge of all the science? Have you ever heard of a second opinion? I can't go to my doctor and ask my doctor's opinion. I mean, this is incredibly arrogant, combined with this authoritarian nature that you think, well, we'll just tell all of America to do what I say, and they better, or we'll fine them, or put them in jail, or not let them go to school, or not let them travel. The science is against you on this. The science is clear. Naturally acquired immunity is as good as a vaccine. The Israel study actually showing it better. This isn't an argument against the vaccine, but it's an argument for letting people make a decision who already have immunity.
Informó para Emblemas de México Daniel Cruz Benítez. Nos vemos en el siguiente reportaje. Muchas gracias.